Congratulations, filmmakers. Wes would be proud. And I'm a firm believer in that statement. I just finished watching the movie and I gotta be honest, I think that this is my new favorite Scream sequel, previous favorite being the fourth movie, but in comparison to the fourth movie, I was definitely a lot more nervous for the characters in here, new and old. I haven't cringed at the killings in this franchise for any of the movies like I did for this movie, except for the first one, which I think was the first slasher movie I ever saw 10.5 years ago or something like that. Just how time flies. It's crazy, isn't it? And just I felt that they did really good with this movie, and it turned out to be different than I thought it would be, because I knew that David Arquette, Courtney Cox, and Neve Campbell were going to be returning, along with the guy that voices Ghostface in all the other movies, but that was all I really knew about it, just returning people, and that, of course, Wes Craven can't direct it, but that's because he's, of course, dead, unfortunately, but right, so when I saw this, I was like, woohoo! They're definitely going for a different angle here, where it's not about things continuing to happen to the original people, it's things happening to a new group of people, and then the old people, through word of mouth and other connections, just get brought into this. Though, of course, Gail and Sydney weren't living in Woodsboro anymore. They didn't have to show up. They chose to come back. Dewey, even though he says that's behind me, when has he ever backed down? Even in the first movie, when he's a nervous freak about everything, he came back. You know, that's Dewey, as Gail says. And these new characters, it took me a little bit to get faith behind them, but you can't reveal everything about the new characters like instantly, although I did find it kind of odd that Tara did survive her encounter, which of course made the line later in the movie that she could be part of the killings even stronger, because, yeah, there have been people that have gotten injuries before and then survived, Dewey and Gale, repeatedly in those situations, but that's pretty much it. And the first killing in the movie typically is a nobody, with the exception of, what's his face? Well, the person that everyone originally figured was responsible for Sydney's mother having trouble. Then, of course, it wasn't. It's the guy that plays Victor in X-Men Origins Wolverine. I'm forgetting his character's name right now, despite watching a scene of him in the second movie, right? But so that was a different curveball to add to things, and I like how they really showed the evolution of remakes and things, because since Scream 4, we've actually had enough reboots of franchises that you have a reboot of a reboot. I mean, like, based on my knowledge of Texas Chainsaw, I haven't seen any of the Texas Chainsaw movies since 3D, but if we're talking restarting the continuity definitively, because the third and fourth movies, even though they say that they're part of the same continuity, they're also argued to reboot it. I know that doesn't make any sense, but trust me, that's what I read when I was first looking up those movies. We have the original movie, then we have the 2003 movie, then we have Texas Chainsaw 3D, then we have the movie Leatherface, which came out in like 2016, and then apparently there was a new reboot that came out not too long ago that I completely missed, albeit most people don't seem to like it, but, you know, that's, what, 4 different reboots? You know, even though a couple of them do say that the original movie still exists, based on what I seem to recall, but when you have that many reboots, it gets rather complicated. So, the term the requel bit? It's nice to bring that up mainstream, even though I have actually heard that term before, because if you just look at the 2008 Incredible Hulk movie on its own, meaning that you don't consider it to be part of the MCU, which you can argue because Edward Norton doesn't reprise his role, and there's really nothing in later movies that reference it. You could argue that that is a requel of the 2003 movie that was directed by Ang Lee. Trust me, that was my reaction when I saw it, because I saw them right after each other. But it just shows the evolution of people's mindsets in these circumstances, and when Dewey's doing these really simple rules, how it's staring you in the face, and then later, how it's exactly what he says? Oh, man! Staring you in the face, although, to be fair, the first movie did, do that, and as I indicated, it wasn't that hard to rule out Randy as a killer, but they do a really good job of getting enough evidence in there for you to go, oh yeah, it's Billy, no, it's Stu, wait, what? But that's because you're not thinking that there's two killers, but in this one, I was really thinking for a long while that they had gone back to one killer, but when the boyfriend brings up always two killers, I realized, oh yeah, you're right. And like when we first get introduced to Sam's group of friends, I was thinking that the chick with the pink highlights was the killer, but I'm like, there's not enough for me to really know that, so I'm going to wait for a bit. But then, when you've got the scene of Ghostface going after Tara, who's on the floor, and then you have that line from the person you love, and then I remember what Amber said earlier, I'm like, oh my god. I think that it's Amber, and then there were a couple of very subtle things, and then we could go, oh yeah, Amber, totally. I mean, like, they're trying to throw us off by doing little bits for Mindy, and then again doing things for the girl with the pink highlights, but the more I'm watching it, the more I'm like, but I have nothing to discredit Amber. I'm telling you, this would make a lot more sense for her to be the killer, because how do you know for sure that what Tara was seeing at the opening was live camera footage? If you shoot something just right, I think that it can work, especially if it's a clone of a phone. That allows for it. That being said, though, I was still a little surprised by how quickly the revelation was, but damn! That was a good reveal, and it taking place in the same house as the climax that was in the first movie, that was a really good move by production. Although I was thinking when the boyfriend was asking Mindy, is there any beer in the house? I'm like, wait a minute, that doorway looks a little familiar, but I don't know why I think... Oh, but of course that's when they tell me it. But just, yeah. And then the confrontation, how it's similar... In the kitchen, I mean, how it's similar and dissimilar to the original. That's really good, albeit you did have the bits where the killers stab each other a little too hastily, like in the first one, in the fourth one, so doing that again, that would be a little overkill. Yeah. Yeah, but that was still great, and then those final stabbings just... Ooh, like when Sam slit her boyfriend's throat, I actually had to look away. I was just like, ugh. Because they did really good with the blood effects in this film. I'm impressed. And then them killing Dewey, moment he decided to go back, I was like, oh no, that's it. I'm like, yeah, you got the bullets fixed, and then you got the heroic music, but it was, yeah. Fifth time was finally the charm, although he didn't really get injured that much in the fourth movie, if I recall correctly. He kinda did, but not nearly as much as the other movies, right? Although I was a little surprised that that was the character that they chose to kill. I was kind of thinking that they would kill Sydney, to be honest, given how little she was mattering in this movie. Granted, it's kind of similar to what they were doing in the third movie, but I don't know. I just kind of figured that that would be the only way to get Nave to come back, because she seemed to be the least willing of the three to come back. Now, her argument has always been, if the story is good, I'll come back. Whereas Courtney and David, they're like, yeah, we've had an ongoing story arc that can also model real life, because showing that Gail and Dewey broke up but still have some feelings for each other, that's touching, because obviously in real life, Courtney and David aren't together, but David, when he was talking about returning to the franchise, goes, we co-parents, so we're in touch quite a bit, and we've always respected each other at work, and we still enjoy it, even though I don't think they've worked together, oh my god, a huge amount of times outside of these movies, but you can tell that, based on his casualness in that interview, that he's not making that up, and of course, even though Gail is Acadine when she's expressing, worry about Dewey and the scenes and all that stuff, yes, it's Acadine, but for someone that you've had that much closer relationship to on and off screen, not all of that is acting. You just can't do it that well. So it shows. She still cares for him in real life as a friend. Right. Kind of lost a train of thought there. But yeah, it makes sense for them to kill one of the lead characters from the previous ones, given how they've been demoted. I mean, like, Star Wars did it. Hey, I didn't say who! Right. And, what do I think about the possibility of them actually continuing this franchise? Well, I'm with, what Nave said in an interview, and that you gotta do it right. You gotta come up with, like, a creative enough storyline. Now, could they do a little more with Sam? Potentially, but I would think that she would be more like the sidekick to the next person, and then you bring Gail or Sydney along the way, honestly, because unfortunately, I just don't really see how Sam can totally carry everything on, her own shoulders. Who knows, though? The writers and people, really impressed me with this movie. They might be able to impress me again. I don't know. What? It's possible. And even then, they could do what this movie is a slight parody of, and then, reboot this franchise. No, I'm not talking about the TV show, even though I did watch the pilot for the show, and I liked it enough that I downloaded the whole darn thing blind, but it's going to be forever before I get to it, but they could in theory do that, and it could work, because there are horror movie remakes out there that actually are completely hated, okay? There are tons of people that like the 2003 Texas Chainsaw movie. There's a bunch of people that really enjoy the Nightmare on Elm Street remake compared to a bunch of the other remakes out there. My Bloody Valentine, I rated that the same as I did the original. Although I felt that the twist at the end was kind of, and then people really seem to be liking the Halloween reboot, although I did enjoy a lot of aspects of the Rob Zombie reboot. Though, really, dude, you could have toned down the dirty language. Come on, and I have Pulp Fiction, okay? Right. Although, then again, that is done humorously, whereas in Rob Zombie it isn't. Right. But you know, you can retool a horror movie thing and have it be liked by a decent group of people, okay? They say that it'll never top the original. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. You just gotta do it right. I mean, like, I prefer the remake of Last House on the Left, albeit that's not entirely fair to Wes Craven, because that was his first movie, and it seemed like that he had a little bit of trouble getting the financing. Right. Okay, so now that I seem to be degenerating into talking a bunch of other stuff to enforce my points, I'm going to stop this thing. So as I said, as of right now, I'm going to say that this is my favorite Scream sequel, and then as for rating it, I'm going to rate it 4.5 out of 5, more or less because of necessity, because that's the rating I gave the previous movies. Before you say no, you rated them 4.8 out of 5. I've actually decided to ditch the 4.8 rating because it just seemed kind of ridiculous to have a 4 out of 5, 4.5, 4.8, and 5, especially since I've only rated like 3 things 5 out of 5. So if any review of mine on here, I'm saying 4.8, I'm really saying 4.5, okay? Right. But if I decide to change my mind, look down in the comments and you'll see my corrected bits there. And you should actually go and check the comments for my videos, because I make it a little bitty corrections for various things. Not for all of them, but some of them when it comes to this noggin, yeah. See ya!